Adventurers, welcome back to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. I'm your host, Tom, and I've got Lotus with me as usual, and we are trying to finish our Daggerfall adventures.
Yeah, we'll finish all the side tangent stuff so that we can get back. It's just like unlocking the main story. We wanted to tag all the stuff that tangentially related to the side story in order to progress the main story.
Yeah. So in this episode, we're going to talk about a bunch of the guilds and other groups that you can join. We're going to kind of lump them together because they're a little bit less interesting than, say, the Dark Brotherhood or the Thieves Guild.
Right. So, and instead of padding out every little single thing from each guild, it's like, well, okay, maybe if we combine all these, it's a little more functional as an episode. Whereas the other ones were a little more robust.
Right. So get ready. We're going to talk about the Fighters Guild, the Mages Guild. We're going to start with the ones that are familiar. But then we're going to talk about the knightly orders, the temples, the temple. They're knights also, but they're for the temples. And then there's the Witch Covens. So
that's when we're going to get weird.
It's going to get weird.
It's a pun. Yeah. You'll know why it's a pun later.
Some people have already figured that out. So that's what we're covering this week. And we still plan to go back to finish the main quest line, but that may not happen in the next week or two. We're going to give Lotus some time to finish through his adventures. Things have been very busy. And I definitely want Lotus to have the opportunity to finish it off so that we get his perspective when we come back sometime in the future. So who knows, maybe a few weeks or months from now, we'll come back around and we'll finish the conversation about Daggerfall and the main quest line.
The goal is to keep hoping to have game time, but the goal is to get it done so that we can dive back in. I definitely hear all of you who have requested, like, some of you have mentioned you rewatched the first 17 episodes again just because it was amusing. I appreciate all of you. I'm glad it entertains.
Wow.
I do desperately want to finish the end of Daggerfall for you all.
Yeah, so we're going to get there, but first we have to talk about all this other stuff, and then, we've got Patron chat coming up this month, and then we'll be on to some other topics. If there is something that we have not covered yet on the show, and there's plenty of stuff we haven't covered, and you want us to cover them, then please feel free to share your ideas, comment, jump on the Discord, message in the show's Discord channel. Let us know what you think we should cover next. We're open to all sorts of ideas, or we'll just come up with our own thing like we usually do. But either way, that's great. All right, so let's kick this off with the Fighters Guild. And for the most part, the Fighters Guild's the Fighters Guild, right? Like, they're mercenaries for hire. They go kill monsters. They go protect people. They kind of do this or that all over the place, right? I mean, that's basically the same.
Pretty on brand.
And this was the origins of the Fighters Guild, and they show up in most of the towns you visit and all of that stuff. Just like the other guilds we talked about before, there are ranks that you can go through, and when you first join, you're an apprentice, and then a journeyman, a swordsman. Of course, the names for these are always fun. Protector, defender, which feels like it means exactly the same thing as protector.
Don't worry about that.
Warder also means the same thing. Guardian also means the same thing. Champion. Oh, there we go. Now it's a different kind of a different word. It's not just a synonym. Warrior, and then master. You can become master of the Fighters Guild. Any thoughts on these titles, Lotus?
When I hear master, I think it's I don't know. The Fighters Guild, as Houston kind of joked in chat, it was like, well, they're a group of fighters. End of story. But they've had a very similar vibe going through the entire series. It kind of translated into a mildly different version, but the companions with Skyrim, same idea, at least to them, with a couple differences.
Mercenary group, that just happen to be werewolves,
but at the same time, the only thing about the final title, Master specifically, sounds way more structured, like it's like a dojo or like an actual I feel like Jedi, like a Master Yoda. It's just like,
right.
I feel like you're just the one who can drink more than everyone else after a successful contract, and that's really just what makes you a master in the guild.
You've just been around longer.
Or exactly, or you just age everyone else out and didn't get killed by a bear.
Right. Which is so great. I was playing a game earlier and I was like, I was running up and fighting a bear with a sword. And I was like, can you imagine actually running up and fighting a bear with a sword? Dear God.
Exactly.
That's That's
The amount
ridiculous.
of adventurers who's just like, oh yeah, well, that's their story was super uneventful.
Right. But also video
now they're
games,
dead.
right? Like, oh, it's just a bear. And it's like, yeah, if that was in real life, bear would be the boss thing you would fight, not just the fodder.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. You'll start with like squirrels and voles and upgrade to a bear boss fight. Or in
Right.
that game, it's just like,
Right.
oh nope, these are just your stock enemies.
Yeah, if you can one-on-one a bear and walk away with just a sword, then yeah, you were definitely the master. But anyway, there's reputation requirements for this. Every 10 points of reputation gets you up, but then you also have to have the high skill and the low skill of certain stats based on the kinds of
Same
skills.
pretty much idea as the other stuff.
Yeah, that the Fighters Guild considers guild skills, which include archery, axe, blunt weapon, giantish, which is a language.
Language.
Being able to speak with giants. Also orcish. So both of those are languages. Long blade and short blade. And the languages seem to make sense to me in this because oftentimes you are hired to not just hunt something down, but sometimes to protect somebody, sometimes to disarm a situation. So being able to speak to the orcs and convince them to not fight or to go away or to intimidate them or whatever is another way and method of solving certain types of things. So it makes sense that those things would be on this list.
It is kind of funny though to think of like being a linguist as a fighter skill.
It is a little odd, but
skill.
it does seem like there's a justification there, right? Like, I mean,
Oh yeah, for sure.
most of the other guilds don't have a whole lot to do with orcs or giants. Like, who's going to run into orcs and giants? But the Fighters Guild, who get hired to protect people because their farm is being attacked by an orc or a giant or something like that.
Right.
So it makes sense. And as with the other guilds, there are different members that you can talk to. There are questers and equippers and trainers who will train you in everything that we just mentioned, including other stuff. So the entire list of things you can learn are archery, axe, blunt weapons, critical strike, which was a skill in Daggerfall, giantish, jumping, long blade, orcish, running, short blade, and swimming. So mostly of the athletic stuff.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, a lot of athletics.
Right. Pretty par for the course. Just like the other ones, if you didn't go back, listen to the last 2 episodes or so, and you'll get a little bit more detail on how the quests and things play out. But there's certain quests you get at random before you join the guild, and then you join the guild and you get another list of quests. And then as you hit rank 1 or rank 2, you get other quests. And we talked about it last time. There are specific quests that are only available if you got the Comp USA special edition of the game back in 1995.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and every one of these guilds has a selection of about 3 or 4 quests that are only available. So with the Fighters Guild, it's like giant killing, kill a not so gentle giant is the description of this one. Runaway pets, where you have to go find a tiger and bring it back. There's a whole like 3-part quest line where you have to spy for a group in Sentinel, and then you have to free this lord who's captured, and then you either have to recapture him or execute him because of somebody else's wishes. It's a little complicated. That one is one of the quests, and then there's another one on this list outside of the long list of regular quests that you can do without the special edition. So, like typical stuff for
Head out to CompUSA now
1995.
and get your copy.
You buy it from this one location and get these bonuses, which I feel like 10 years later was much more common than in 1995. But there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, then RIP CompUSA.
Yeah, RIP CompUSA. Then there's different locations across the map is huge. We've talked about this before, but a lot of the locations have cities and then towns and then some of the buildings for certain guilds and certain towns. And there's a bunch of them. You run into the Fighters Guild all over the place. Outside of that, it's pretty par for the course.
Yeah. And their quests are, again, with the procedural nature of it, it's just kind of go here, kill thing, stuff like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
go in this dungeon, kill the boss,
go in this dungeon,
come back.
kill the thing, come back. The quest structure is only so deep. I mean, I guess when you really boil down quest structure nowadays, it's always kind of simplistic when you think about it in some ways.
This is something I was thinking about when I was playing ESO earlier this week. I was streaming it online and did 2 different quests, 2 different side quests. And one of them was a murder mystery. Both quests, I didn't have to kill anyone.
Yes.
There was no combat. And in the second quest, which was this like murder mystery, you you're basically in one place. I'm not traveling across the map. I'm not going anywhere else. I'm just investigating what's going on, getting clues, talking to people, piecing it together, and then solving the mystery. And that was it. And it took like an hour and 15 minutes to do because I was going through all the text and I was just getting all the details. And then, of course, it's not super dense. I'd kind of figured it out halfway through, but it wasn't go to a dungeon and kill a monster. In fact, I didn't kill any. Actually, no, I had to kill one or two things in the cellar that were in the way because I couldn't get past them because of their placement. But that was it.
Yeah, but I was just thinking and that's just it. It's always notable when the quest is more than go to a location and collect a thing or go to a location and kill a thing. And it's just oftentimes in games, they now have kind of masked that a bit by having the surrounding features of it a little more elaborate. Whereas, back in the day, it was kind of just literally do that. And then there was less floweriness around it to make you kind of realize you're doing the same thing, but
and less scripting.
Yes,
that's the other thing.
Scripting.
That's one of the things they've gotten really good at with ESO, and there's still some of that in Skyrim, where you play through a quest and you get to certain points in the quest, and characters reemerge in other places that you don't necessarily expect them to pop up, and they have new things to tell you, or it kind of you play out this actually like a plot line. It's more of a plot line than a go here, do this, or like an MMO thing of like, kill 10 of these, kill 20 of these, bring me 4 cabbages and come back, like that kind of thing.
Yes.
So, but in these old games like Daggerfall, it was very much go here, kill a thing, come back. It was basically do a thing and return, quest done. For the most part. So here, let's move on to the Mages Guild. This is another staple of the series. It's an old favorite. Everybody knows about the Mages Guild. They're designed to study magic and to teach people about magicka and to investigate more about how magic works and the kind of, I don't know what's the right word for this, the more mysterious side of the world.
The mystical side of it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And they have ranks, just like the Fighters Guild. We've got Apprentice, Journeyman. Some of these are real good. Evoker. That's a good one.
Ooh, that's a good name. That's a good title.
Right. And then Conjurer, which feels like it's
sure
the same thing. Magician. Okay.
All right,
I feel like Magician should be right above, like right after Journeyman.
Or it should be really lowly ranked because it's actually just you doing children's parties.
That's what I'm saying. Like you start out as an apprentice, a journeyman, and then now you're a magician, but you're still not really doing magic.
I can see that. But that's the first specialized rank.
Right.
I was thinking like at the beginning, well, that'll be your starter one, but it's like, the apprentice and journeyman. Yeah, you're right. Those should probably still be because those are kind of generic.
Yeah.
Again, we had them in the Fighters Guild. They're much more generic. Yeah. The first official mage rank being that.
Magician,
that makes sense.
Right. And then enchanter, warlock, wizard, master wizard, and archmage or archmage, however you want to pronounce that, which we know about archmages. Like there's still archmages of the, like this is still a term that's used for Mages Guild. And heck, even the school in Skyrim has an archmage. So still a classification, still need to go up the reputation, the skills, all of that stuff. And here are the guild skills. I bet you can't guess all of these. Maybe you can. Alteration, destruction. These are all types of magic, of course. Illusion. Mysticism, restoration, and thaumaturgy. Didn't see that last one coming, did you?
No, I certainly thought it would be blunt weapons again.
Right.
Just whacking people with a staff.
So the thaumaturgy is spells like levitate and water walking and things like that. And we've done episodes about all the different types of magic. So
the schools, which change from game to game.
Yeah. So go look up some of the old episodes if you missed any of those. We've got episodes about that stuff. And then, of course, you go up the ranks and you get different abilities as you go up the ranks. And there's different members that you get to talk to. So you've got guild magisters. That's such a wonderful name, Guild Magister, right? These are kind of like the quest givers. You have Odilic Mages, which basically is who you go to get items identified. And as we go through this, one of the things I think is worth noting is how valuable all of these resources are in the Mages Guild as compared to some of the other resources you get in some of the other guilds. All of these sound really useful.
Yeah.
Then there's academics And the academics are basically where you go to get like spell. You get to buy spells and things from them basically. And the price of the spell changes depending on your rank in the guild and all of that. Also, this game was designed in the 90s and it's very pixelated, but one of the archmages you come across is clearly a woman with just a boob hanging out.
Yep. It is the 90s.
It is the 90s. I mean, it's pixelated, so like I had to look at it for a moment and be like, is that like a transparent top?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on with that?
Yeah, no, that's a thing. They just periodically like to toss in some nudity into the older games because why not? I mean, nothing quite matches the degree that they go all in like Battlespire, but
Yeah. Right.
Daggerfall is the progenitor, so
that's true. That's true. And then there's patricians who give you training, and they can train you in more than just the guild skills. This includes Alteration, Daedric, Destruction, Dragonish, Harpy, Illusion, Impish, Mysticism, Orcish, Restoration, Spriggan, and Thaumaturgy. So you get a bunch of languages, but you also get Daedric, like being able to speak with Daedra. So not just actual regular creatures that you see all over the place or different like regular, I don't know, species that are natural.
Yeah, bringing in the mystical element again, where it's like, oh yeah, we can commune with like the creatures of oblivion type of deal. It's like, all right.
But that makes sense because if you're a mage and you're summoning a Daedra to do your bidding, you need to be able to talk to it. So
I was going to say, it would be
Daedric.
helpful if you don't conjure something and then just stare at it and be like pointing and grunting to get it to try to do stuff.
Right. Make dinner. Cook a meal. Cook meal.
Okay.
Food.
So this is a mild tangent, which why is it when there's like a language barrier or whatever, any communication barrier, regardless of what it is, why do people seem to think that pronouncing it slower and weirder is going to help?
Right. I don't know.
It's just very weird. It's like, at least if you don't
louder
hear you, louder makes sense.
Right.
But like, why would you dinner? Okay, saying that slow isn't different than just saying dinner.
Right. It's not helpful if they don't understand the language.
I was going to say it's not
They're not going to piece it together.
Process it, is it? I just it's very weird. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, we still have the video behind us. If anybody's like, what's going on with that? That's not us playing right now. That's just what the game looks like. Yeah, that's Lotus's previous playthrough. Anyway, there's also isolationists, which at first you're like, wait a minute, are the mages isolationists? Do they withdraw from the rest of society? No, these are spell makers. These are the people you talk to who can help you isolate the different components you need in order to make your own spells. Spellcrafting was a thing in Daggerfall.
It was probably the most open spellcrafting in the entire series.
Yeah, a lot of these things have become a little bit more buttoned down over the course of the series.
Yes, and it was then real open completely. In like, Morrowind, which is the one that most people are acquainted with, where it's like, oh, you can do all these ridiculous things. Daggerfall, in my opinion, is even more ridiculous. I don't even think that's my opinion. I think there's just more wacky, broken stuff you can do.
Yeah.
And then they kind of reined it in a little bit when it came to what is it? The Morrowind, and then it became much more refined, even though equally broken in Oblivion.
Right.
So
and then totally gone in Skyrim.
Yeah, and then in Skyrim, they're like, all right, look, you are ruining everything. We're trying to make a game that is balanced. By the way, whoops, it turns out alchemy is wildly unbalanced.
I wish they wouldn't focus so much on balance. I don't care. Like, I don't care if Bethesda games feel balanced.
Yes.
All I need to know is it fun? And if it's breakable, then let me break it because that's still fun. And then once I realize that that's the way to break it, I can avoid it if I don't want to do it. And just don't craft that crazy spell that broke the game. So that's cool. I could just not do that now if I want to make it harder. Just,
again, I don't know. I really have a problem. Like, unless it is a competitive setting for a game, who cares about balance?
Right.
Like, I guess some people do, but
as long as it feels roughly balanced and I guess that's the distinction is it's I don't mind a few things feeling really wacky, like all of a sudden, oh, I got this sword too early and I can kill all the things I want with it or whatever. I don't mind that, as long as if I don't get that sword, it still feels balanced. Like, I don't mind a few things being super unbalanced, as long as the majority of the experience still feels right. I think that's
I also
probably the way to say
enjoy
it.
when you can work toward completely breaking everything. That's another thing that I've always enjoyed
Yeah.
quite a bit, where it's like, okay, it's not like, well, this is going to be a weird example that probably like nobody's going to get, but Fable 1 on the original Xbox,
Yeah.
we had it in our dorm room, and
Yeah.
I took it, I was just roaming around, and like the first demon door or whatever it was called, I don't remember, it's been
Yes, they were demon doors. Yes.
but you did, and they would make you do a task to open the door, and there would be something behind the door. And I remember there was this one, and it was like, oh, you need to get like this nonsensically long combo or something like that. And my roommate at the time was like, oh, there's totally got to be something useful in here. Like this is got to be like good. And I was like, man, that is a rough combo to try to get, because things are attacking you at the same time, and if you get hit, it breaks your combo. So you literally had to just do like an and I was like, oh man, that seems like there's got to be something good behind that one, because that seems much more challenging than the other ones that we've stumbled across. And this was pretty early in the game, and we got a shield spell or whatever, and the first thing I thought, I was like, well, if I get hit, my shield spell is up, it doesn't break my combo. So
Right.
I just made a bunch of magic potions, went in front of the door, and just swung like a moron and didn't care if I got hit. And I would just guzzle potions to make sure my magic bar didn't run out. And I got through the combo door like way too early, got the second best sword in the entire game, and just completely obliterated everything in the game.
Right.
And he was just like, dude, that is so not even fun, because he was playing it a totally different way. He was playing good. I was awful. And like, he was just like, man, what? Your game is a joke now. And I'm like, that's fine. You don't have to play it like that. I came up with a weird workaround and got this thing. I liked that being an option.
Right. And if you don't want the broken sword, don't equip it once you get it.
Or wait till later in the game to get it.
Or go back to a previous save and be like, okay, I'm not going to do that demon door yet, and go do other stuff. You know, like there's all sorts of ways.
Or don't be like me and spend the first 3 hours of the game not playing and trying to figure out how to break into a demon door that you're clearly not supposed to get into that early.
Right. But that's part of what makes games fun, is that you can kind of break them sometimes. So I love that stuff. But
I
anyway,
like out strategizing the time when you should do stuff, and putting in some weird scenario where it's like, aha, I got this thing way too early or inappropriately.
Right. But we still have more stuff to get to
I was gonna say,
with the Mages Guild.
Fable tangents aside.
So there's lots of people you can talk to in Mages Guilds, including crafters, which make the enchanted items and things like that. There are utility mages, which they basically help with your mercantile skill and your reputation. Then there are the Cabal. And these are the people who are the experts. These are the go-to for summoning Daedra and having to deal with basically the spookier parts of the magic stuff. And then you have the Travelers League, and these are individuals who deal with teleportation services. So if you want to talk to them and teleport between one place and another, you can.
Super handy.
But you don't get to teleport back. They just send you one way.
It's like Mark and Recall, which for anybody who's seen my
no recall.
There's no recall. It's just the mark and teleport. Like it's actually, there's no mark. It's literally, I guess, just teleport, because in the game itself, which luckily chat has saved me several times, I've also botched it several times in my playthrough. You have to mark your position and then teleport. And when you teleport, it removes the mark. The idea of the mark is you're placing a spot where you market teleport. Yes, to market of teleport.
Market teleport.
Yeah,
The
you have
teleport
to
market.
place your. Basically, I always think of it, it's like, okay, when you're building a house in Fallout 76 or something like that, and you put the like area rug, and that's when you spot like fast travel the location, you just appear on that like doormat.
Yeah.
You basically have to put this down for it to know you're there, and then you can just teleport back to it at any point. But it uses it. So once you use it, if you don't reset it, you're screwed.
That's it. Yeah.
Which when you walk into a dungeon and these spaghetti dungeons are in front of you, you mark the front door.
Right, yeah, so you can get back out, because it's crazy to try to get back out.
In 5 seconds. But if I ever forget and I'm like, okay, time to teleport out of the... No.
Oh, no, dear God.
And it's like, now I need to find my way out of this.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, that's a good thing that exists, but it's... they fix it in later games where they just loop the dungeons and then you just find an easy way out. Yes, the dungeons
go loops, or you can just fast travel.
Right.
Just on a whim now.
That is nice. But yeah, let's talk about the quests. There's a bunch of quests that you can get. Same kind of deal as the Fighters Guild, but Mages Guild stuff is a little bit different. Sometimes you have to kill stuff. Sometimes you have to research something. Sometimes you have to find a magical item. Sometimes you have to help somebody with a summoned creature that's running amok. There's lots of different variations.
Their Atronox get out way too much. It's real problematic.
Real problematic, yeah. Also, there are let's see, 2 plus a 3-part quest line that you can get from the CompUSA Special Edition.
Oh, yeah.
This includes a quest called Open a Chest.
Beautiful.
A merchant needs a magical chest opened.
That's CompUSA dollars at work.
That's what you get for shopping at CompUSA. And Azumethyl Vectors, where you help a mage with research, and then Former Student Part 1, 2, and 3, where you have to hunt down a former student, and of course, wackiness ensues. So there you go. That's the Mages Guild, and again, pretty similar to what we have in the later games.
Yes. So the only 2 things that are worth noting, they have actually one of my favorite repeatable quests, which is basically they're just like, yeah, we're going to get jumped. That's the quest. We're getting jumped tonight. We're going to get robbed. So you just post up in the Mages Guild and a bunch of random burglars break in and you just butcher them. And they're like, oh, the man, thanks. Here's a whole bunch of money. And it's like, what? Did you set this up so I would just kill people? Like, why didn't you just lock the door better? But it's super easy, repeatable quest. And the other thing I will say, there's always the air of snootiness around, like they're a little presumptuous. They tend to look down on people sometimes. The Mages Guild in this game, they are just dicks. Like they're just
right.
They're super dismissive and rude. Even after I've ranked up quite a few times, it's just like, oh, here's your pittance. Get out of my face. I'm like, bro, I just saved you. What is your problem? They are incredibly obnoxious to deal with in Daggerfall.
Right. That kind of tracks, but not all the mages are as jerky as they are here.
It's more of a 10 out of 10 in this one, douchey, as opposed to like a 6 in the later games.
Super douche guild. All right. Well, we've still got to get to the Knightly Orders, the Temples, and the Witches Covens, so don't go anywhere. But first, we have to go thank our patrons, so let's go do that.
This is Miss Morak, Dragonborn, and you are educating yourself to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast.
Thank you, Hermaeus Mora. All right, here we are. This is the middle of the show. This is where we get to thank and welcome our newest patrons, including Butters1993 and Aradon. Welcome to the Patreon. So glad that you decided to sign up and join us. I hope you're enjoying the ad-free episodes, the bonus gameplay episodes I've been posting on there, which I just did some new ones. Went up like yesterday. And there's a bunch of other stuff, t-shirts and stickers, and you can join us on patron chats like the one coming up in just a week from today. On the 25th. It's the last Thursday of the month. So you've got time to sign up for that if you'd like to join us. All of that at patreon.com/Elder Scrolls Lorecast if you want to check that out. Also, we have to shout out our Daedric Princes, Blinding Vision, Fall, Hircine, Just a Little Bit of Chaos, Kirasi, and Peter R. Thank you so much for your support and for supporting us at that tier. And thank you to all 122 of our active patrons. Holy moly. That number just keeps going up. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much.
Appreciate all of you.
We really do. We really do.
I'm glad people enjoy.
You make this possible. So thank you so very much. And then
make it a lot of fun.
Yeah. And also, if you'd like to help us out in other ways and get your words on the show, then leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and we'll read it out on a future episode. We don't have any new ones this week, which means that if you leave one, you might be the next one we read. You can also rate the show on Spotify. 5-star reviews everywhere are extremely helpful. And you can share us with your friends or, come join us on the Discord, jump into the guild, join one of our guilds. There's lots of fun stuff you can do. So thanks for being here and being a part of the community. All right, let's move on with the rest of the show.
You're listening to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, dear child of cities. That is why the Night Mother loves you.
All right, we're back. We're going to talk now about the Knightly Orders. And this is one of the first groups that we are discussing that isn't really in the later games, at least not in this way. And here's what it says on the UESP article about it. It says the Knightly Orders are joinable factions that exist in various regions of the Iliac Bay. They are the legions of knights who do the bidding of the regional ruler. So each of the Knightly Orders is like its own group for that specific ruler for that region. They're not necessarily all connected. They're distinct and different, although they're all just Knightly Orders. Does that make sense? Does that track?
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's a good way of explaining it, I think.
Yeah. So there's different groups. So this isn't all just one group. You can join different groups. And as of one of the later patches, you're only allowed to join one of the groups. I guess at one point when the game first came out, you could join multiple groups depending on different regions.
The first round of the game that came out pre-patch, you could do a couple kind of weirder things. This being one of the ones they corrected. I think it was trying to make your choice of faction has consequences, because we've talked about, like, even doing the main quest has impacts on how people feel about you with the reputation thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think they liked people having just free reign over joining whatever order they wanted, which would be something you'd see in a game like probably one of the versions now.
Right. And you gain political faction points based on what you do with certain types of quests. And then if you do Knightly Orders quests, then you get political faction points with that specific political faction. And then some of the sub factions that are referenced and all of that stuff. It's kind of complex. But the orders have their ranks just like any of these other guilds. You start as an aspirant, then you go to squire, gallant. That's a fun one. Chevalier, I think, is like a French word. It looks like chevalier.
It's actually a title that's in Elder Scrolls Online as well that you can earn. Yes, it is. It's a dungeon
cool.
title. I feel like people can correct me if I'm wrong on this. I think it might be the trifecta for not to keep. Oh my God!
It'll come to
blood. Yeah, it's the vampire dungeon in the desert. Oh God!
It'll come to you.
Yeah,
you keep thinking. You keep thinking as I go through the list. Yeah. So you get then there's a keeper, knight brother, commander, marshal, seneschal, and paladin. Paladin is the highest rank.
Interesting. Moongrave Fane, by the way.
There you go. I knew it would come to you. I knew it. And then this group has their own guild skills: archery, critical strike, dragonish, etiquette. That's an interesting one. Giantish, longblade,
like
and medical. And notice that it's kind of a broad spectrum. You have some stuff for fighting, some stuff for language, a medical skill. And notice paladin is the highest rank in this. So it's almost like these are supposed to be knights who are there to help and serve the people, which means helping them out. Maybe if they have medical problems, you can help them out in that way as well. And also because you're a knight, you should be of a certain status, which means you need to have etiquette, which means that you can speak with the snooty rich people in ways that don't piss them off.
That's always good.
Always good. So those are the guild skills. And of course, there are different individuals that you can talk to in these guilds when you go visit them. There are questers who, of course, give you the quests. And then there's the seneschal, which is a magistrate in the order. It's a rank that you can get, but it's also a person in these guild halls you can talk to. And that has to do with getting your house and your home connections, because if you're a knight for the order, you also have a residence in that part of the world. And then there are smiths who also help you craft things. You also get, as you go up these ranks, you're gifted from the smith a cuirass, like a chest piece made out of some sort of plate metal. And that goes up in rank as you go up in ranks as well. So as an aspirant, you get a steel chest piece. As a squire, you get fake iron, steel, or elven chest piece. And fake iron is a total thing in the game where it like acts like iron, but it doesn't look like iron. And there's limitations around how you can use it or can't use it, depending on the stats and abilities that you have. And then there's iron, steel, a random one at keeper level, elven, dwarven, mithril, adamantium, Wolverine would be proud, and ebony. Ebony's the highest one on this list. And you probably recognize some of these from the later games.
Yeah, that's actually sort of amusing. And I, along the lines of this, with your appropriate ranks and titles that come with these things, one thing that I actually found kind of interesting, because again, I was curious if I was correct. I was close. You do get the Chevalier title for not getting the trifecta in Moongrave Fane. It's for doing each of the things independently. So close.
Okay.
It's the old trifecta version. But if I actually was just curious on what it actually meant, because we were trying to ballpark it, and I was curious where it would fall in the title markings. It sort of makes sense. It's literally French for like knight or a horseman.
Okay,
So-
yeah. It's chivalry. Like that
Yeah,
means
so
it comes from a horse.
Somebody can a chivalrous person, right?
It comes from somebody
So
who works
it's-
with horses. Yeah.
Right. So I find it funny that it's like essentially dumbing down the word. You're a knight, and then you become a keeper, and then you become a knight brother.
Right.
Because some of the overlap, it was like, oh, so it's not really knight twice, but close.
Kinda.
So,
Yep.
yeah, but kinda.
Yeah, they're like, these words are close enough. Let's just use them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It does sound pretty cool.
It does sound pretty cool. Yeah. And then you've got a list of quests. And of course, you can do certain quests at certain ranks. Now, these, in some of the other guilds, you only need to be like rank 1 or 2, rank 2 to get through all the quests. In this one, there's less quests, but higher ranks are needed. So I feel like this is one of those things that you are supposed to do as you like kind of come back to it over and over as you grow through the game and through your abilities and your rankings and things like that, including the Lost Artifact, which is a quest that you can do at rank 8 and is the only CompUSA special edition quest you get for the Knightly Orders, and which is like they're one of 2 of their highest ranking quests. The other one is Army of Undead, where you have to destroy a lich. Both of these you have to fight a lich.
Yeah.
So,
Spoiler, liches are miserable in this game.
yeah.
They're one of the highest tier enemies, and they beat the crap out of you. Well, they beat the crap out of me because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're supposed to, like, clearly that's a rank 8 level quest. These are supposed to be end game types of enemies.
Yes, and it's really good. They do a lot of splash damage. Otherwise, I would never beat them.
Right. Damage yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, please kill yourself because I can't.
So that's the Knightly Orders. Now we have the temples, which have their own knights, but they're not part of the Knightly Orders. And this is, again, different in ways from the other games. Like, you probably remember playing Oblivion or Skyrim and going to all the different temples. And for the most part, if there's a city with a temple, it feels kind of generic, especially in Oblivion. They had places where you could worship all 9 of the divines, because there were 9 divines by the point of Oblivion, and you go into the temple, you go worship all the 9 divines, or pick the divine you want to worship, and then you move on to the other temple. But in Daggerfall, there is a temple for each of the divines, and they're in different cities. So they're kind of divided up and spread out differently, which is interesting, right? And then you can...
Yeah, this is very different, honestly.
Yeah.
They're much more separated, to your point, than they are in the later games, where it's kind of like, I don't know, there's almost like an understood thing where it's like, well, yeah, no, there's different faiths, and you can just kind of go with whatever. In this, it's much, much more segregated.
Yeah.
Oftentimes the way real religion tends to be.
Well,
this one
yeah.
mirrors our real life a lot more than the later games, where it's just kind of like, we kind of are accepting of all of the divines or whatever,
Right.
or you accept none of the divines or whatever, what have you. Whereas this one, it's just kind of like, no, you've got your religion. You pray to that deity, and this is your specific church, and
Right.
that's
Like
kind of a lost bit.
polytheistic religions, even in today's world, will have individual temples for specific deities.
Sure.
You know,
Right,
like
right.
if you are Hindu, you might
Sure.
worship a specific deity, because there are thousands and thousands of Hindu deities, and this temple is for this deity, and that's the one that you worship the most, or the only one you worship, or whatever. That's
sure,
totally up to
for
you.
sure.
In the ancient world, if you were, in ancient Greece, there would be a temple to different deities. Each city had their city's specific deity. Maybe this city was Zeus, but this other city was Hera. It just depended.
Right.
So this is kind of similar to that. It's also kind of similar to Catholicism, where you might have a church named after a specific saint or something like that, right? So it's kind of like that stuff. Each one of these is different, and each of the temples gives you can do different things. So in a lot of the guilds, you can kind of do whatever that individual guild hall has. Some of the guild halls have just everything that you need. In this, it's different because, so for example, if you go to the Temple of Akatosh, you get access to the library. You can freely heal your wounds. You can buy potions. They have a potion maker. They also have the ability to summon Daedra from that location. But what you don't have that some of the other temples have is the ability to buy magical items, to make magic items, to buy spells, to make spells, or to buy soul gems. You would need to go to, say, Julianus or Kinnereth's temple for some of those things. Each temple has kind of a different number of these kinds of things, and they specialize in these things in different ways. So there's a reason that you may want to go visit certain temples or be able to teleport to a certain temple as opposed to somebody else. So it's interesting. It's kind of this thing that doesn't exist. It would be really cool to see this sort of thing exist in a future mainline Elder Scrolls game. I think that would be really cool. Yeah, for
sure. This is something that they've kind of steered away from as of late.
Right. And then, of course, you've got all these different quests. There's quests that you can do before you're a member. There's quests that you can do when you are a member. But then there are even specific quests for specific temples that you have to go get from that temple individually. And you have to rank with that temple in order to do. So it's a little bit more complicated. And the ranks have some cool titles as well. We've got Novice, Initiate, Acolyte, Adept, Curate, Disciple, Brother, Diviner, or Diviner. I don't know how the best way to pronounce that. Yeah. Master and Patriarch. So they assume you're male, I guess. Like, what if you're a female character?
Going with the male stereotype on that one.
Yeah, you think it'd be Patriarch / Matriarch if you happen to be female, but
apparently not back then.
Guess not. I mean, it is a religious order, and traditionally that's the patriarchy for you. Everyone's gonna be like, "Oh my God, so woke! Don't listen to the show. They're so woke."
They mentioned other people exist.
They mentioned other people exist that are different from themselves. They must be woke.
Yeah, I was going to say, they definitely assume that you're apparently just a dude in this.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, there's just like a gender neutral term back then. Yes, brother. And it's just like, absolutely, like, nope, not a chance.
Yeah. Hey, the world moves on. But then we've got Witches Covens. This is the last type of group, and they are not really like a guild at all. Like, I guess you could consider knightly orders in the temples like guild light, but the Witches Covens are completely different. Here's what it says in the UESP. Witches Covens in Daggerfall remain a mystery to many players. This article shows some carefully gathered information about them and explains their function and purpose. Just the fact that it starts with that makes me believe that most people who have played this game like run into them and then they go, I don't know what the deal is with these witches. And then they just kind of nope out.
A big WTF.
Yeah.
I actually have not run into them yet. So I've tangentially heard about them in game, but I haven't actually bumped into them yet. So I don't even again, they feel almost more out of the way too. Like it almost like one of these things you have to search out if you want to work with them.
Well, you're in luck because the UESP has a section here that says how to find covens. And the answer to your question is covens are located in the wilderness of the Iliac Bay. They often consist of a big mound the size of a house, 2 guards at the entrance, and more witches and the leader of a coven, the beldam, not bedlam. I thought that would be cool if it was named a bedlam, but no,
that is
beldam.
A great title. Yeah, the bedlam of witch.
the bedlam is like the superior witch. No, the beldam inside. An example of such a coven is the Glenmoral Witches in Alessian Hills. To find a coven, a map with the location might be handy, but not necessary if you know where you're looking. So basically, if you have an understanding of where they are on the map, you can go talk to them, and then you can interact with them, and then you can do witch stuff. Like if they accept you into their group or whatever, and they send you off on some quests, and you can do quest things, but now you're operating for witches, and every single one of their locations are at specific locations out in the world somewhere, but if you don't know where that is, you may never run into it. If you don't get a map and specifically look for them or just look this up online, you couldn't, like Lotus is saying, you could just never run into them.
Never bump into them. The game does not lead you to the Witches Coven. And to your point of them being the joke I made, finally circled back to that. The joke I made about them being kind of weird is WYRD, which is
Right.
which is the coven style that you see later in the series. They kind of like control like earth magics. There's the wardens that they have is a class in Elder Scrolls Online, and also like the Reach folk. Like it feels like this is the progenitor of kind of what that becomes to the series to me. Very nature magic-y type of deal. And it was just kind of like, oh, well, yeah, here's our druid style class, because it's very D&D oriented and stuff like that back then. So it's like, here's what they had as that. And then over time, as they've done with the Khajiit and the Argonians and stuff like that, where it's been fleshed out into something that makes it very unique to the series. I feel like this is almost like the little like bit where, yeah, here it is, but we don't really have it fleshed out yet. And it just kind of evolved more and more over time to be something that's like, oh, yeah, no, we've got the hedge magic and we've got, the Forsworn with the weird death trees and stuff. Becomes pretty cool over time. But this is sort of where it all starts.
Yeah, the nature-y, magic-y stuff.
Yeah,
in the later games
made it stranger and.
Right, and you still have witches in the later games too.
Time.
Like Skyrim, you run into the witch in her little cottage with her underground little.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, and
sanctuary.
it's pretty common that you just have the nature magic thing, and they kind of make their own little groups, Hagraven, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I feel like you would find a Hagraven in this group if they existed back then.
Right, now there is a glitch in Daggerfall where. You can't find witches' covens in towns or cities, but there is a glitch where turns out that if you go into a certain type of building, talk to a certain type of individual, that it will be registered as if they are part of a witches' coven, and they will give you witches dialogue and send you on quests and things, even though it looks like okay, this random guy in his house has some like witch quests for me. All right, I guess that's cool, which is super weird, but it's a glitch. It's not supposed to happen. You can actually force it to happen. There's ways of triggering this and kind of playing with the glitch. So that's a thing.
I sort of love that. Just like, hey, could I rent a room? So I need you to get this dragon heart for me. Wait, what?
Right.
Like, dude, I just need a room for a night, man.
It's like this like overweight old bald man, and he's like, you've done some wonderful things for my sisters in the past. I need your help with this new quest. It's like, what?
All right.
Weird.
I was thinking of getting a pint of ale and going to bed, but this works too.
Right. Kind of weird. So this is really kind of interesting too. You can summon Daedra, as we've mentioned with some of these other guilds. You get the abilities to do that, but it's different with the witches. Here's what it says in the UESP. It says summoning Daedra in a witch coven is slightly different than summoning in a temple or a mage's guild. Covens will only summon a random Daedra, no matter what the summoning day is. And that's part of the whole summoning day thing. It still happens in the lore. They talk about it in ESO.
Yep.
In order to summon certain types of Daedra, you have to summon them on their summoning day, right? Not for the witches, it's different. Useful if you just missed a summoning day for a Daedra or don't want to wait a whole year, because there's only one day a year, right?
Yeah, it's literally based on the actual in-universe calendar. It is not like, I can do this whenever I want. No, you have to wait for the correct summoning day.
Yeah, which is kind of cool.
Costs a fortune.
It's kind of cool. That's the thing, right?
Yes.
The Glenmoral witches in Alessian Hills summon Hersine, as does any coven in cities and the witch appearing during the artifact quest. Going to any of these covens on the numerous so-called summoning days will prove the only Daedra the Glenmoral coven will summon is Hersine. Hersine is in our chat right now, which is hilarious.
Wink.
No matter what day it is. However, there is a slight possibility for Sheogorath to replace the Daedra to summon, even with the Glenmoral witches. So Sheogorath can play a trick that basically means that he gets summoned instead of the other Daedra that you were trying to summon.
Yes, if I'm not mistaken, does it say it here? I believe if there's a thunderstorm happening when you're doing the summoning, there's a chance that Sheogorath can mess up any summoning.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because it's like,
that's so cool.
I think it's during
when it's raining.
Yes. Oh, okay. Hersine says when it's raining. Okay, yeah. If it's got an in-game storm going on, there's a chance Sheo is going to just pop up and get wacky.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And then it says, unlike at guilds, a failed summoning will result in waves of Daedric foes coming after you, which is amazing. That's so cool. I want this stuff to be in future games. Like, not like even just on a light side. It doesn't have to be super intense. It just the depth of it. If you really want to role play in the world that deeply, let that be a thing. Right.
And some of the depth I love, and it's like really fun and really ambitious, honestly, for especially when this game came out. But yeah, some of it is like a little overwhelmingly tedious in some ways. So if they could find a happy medium of the streamlined approach that they've been going for over the last several entries to the series, but also harken back to some of this, I think they would really nail that perfect balance for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Where it's like not too streamlined because you're missing these things, but have these things maybe be a little more intuitive other than the most abstract things on the planet.
Right. Like if you can do the streamlined stuff, and if that's the kind of game you want to play, you can play that. But then if you really look a little deeper, there's this other stuff that's in there too. That's a best of both worlds situation. Like you can just kind of do the quest and knock them out and turn in the thing and then you're done and move on to the next thing. Fine. But if you read the notes or listen to the full dialogue or whatever, and you go, oh, there's this other aspect of this. Maybe I'll wait till the summoning day to do this quest or whatever.
Right.
And then you get extra things for that. That's freaking amazing. Like that you can do it either way you want, but if you want more, it's there. That would be super cool. So we have to talk about the quests, though, real quick before we wrap this up. There's a variety of different quests that you can go on for the witches. A lot of these are like deliver a potion, get an artifact, find a rare tome, do things like that.
Yeah, there's a little more fetch questy. It looks like, as opposed to murdery.
Right. And then there are a few quests that you have to be very high reputations in order to do. Most of the quests you can kind of do at any reputation, and then eventually you end up getting like a Daedra's Heart. The sad thing about all of this is that none of these quests are specific to CompUSA.
No, they got completely hosed, which is wildly unacceptable.
It's so unacceptable. CompUSA.
You actually had to go to Circuit City. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, all the Witches quests are from Circuit City. And if you remember, EB Games.
Yes, beautiful, great.
Or Babbage's. Remember Babbage's?
Yeah, Babbage's before it became GameStop.
Yeah, that was a thing. So there you go. That's a Witches Coven.
Weird ending to that whole thing.
that's how we end it. But those are the other guilds and the other groups. They're all similar and different in other ways. Plus, there's some really cool stuff that was in this that just wasn't in the other games in the series. So pretty cool stuff. We'll wrap this up sometime in the future. Like we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we'll talk about the end of the main quest line once Lotus gets through all of that.
Yeah, coming up sooner, hopefully, rather than later.
Yeah, so we'll come back around. We'll do some other stuff in the meantime. And, of course, next week is our patron chat, so you're welcome to come join us for that. But, Lotus, you have anything else you want to share before we head out?
There's a new episode of the UESP's Tales of Tamriel. For anybody who is interested, we kind of did a recap, still keeping mostly, like, not spoiling stuff for the new Gold Road now that we've had some solid amounts of time with it. Really, really enjoying that DLC. It's been a fun anniversary that they said or that they've been doing so far. And yeah, we're planning on another one relatively soon, hopefully tomorrow night, provided no catastrophes in scheduling. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And the only other thing is my goal is to hopefully stream some Daggerfall soon. I just need to make it work. But actually, I need to just not work to make it work.
Right, with your schedule. Right. Oh, and Herstein says, do I need to say it? We had hit the random page button. I just hit it.
I was going to say, I like at this point having everything complete and
then doing the random page at the end.
But like you can tell the note between whether we're just totally panicked because we almost forgot or if it was like, yeah, we were waiting to finish.
Yeah, feel free to remind us because who knows, maybe we'll forget.
Because spoiler alert, like 85% of the time, it's a panic adding it in before we hit the outro.
Oh crap. Yeah, so a reminder for my other stuff, robotsradio.net for my other shows, lots of other stuff you can check out. There's some new shows joining the network over the last few months that'll be putting some new stuff out there. So lots of cool things if you want to go check it out. If you want to see more of my stuff, I would highly recommend checking out the the Fallout Lorecast YouTube channel, which is getting a lot more love because I found a new editor who's helping edit together the video stuff for turning old episodes into episodes, including all the different vaults. So if you want to go find out what all the different wacky vault stuff is going on, those are going up. But then also for some of the new episodes, like I have an episode going up tomorrow, which will be available for anybody who's listening to this once you're actually hearing it, other than the live stream, where the community, the Robots Radio community, helps me come up with a list of some of the weirdest NPCs in Fallout. So that video and episode will go up tomorrow, and so you can check it out either on audio platforms or on YouTube at the same exact time. The first time I've ever launched that simultaneously. So go check it out. I think you'll love it because there's some super wacky NPCs, and I'm considering turning some of those kinds of lists into episodes on the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, whether maybe they turn into something that becomes an episode where Lotus and I discuss them, or maybe that and becomes a streamlined version with some visuals and things for the video version of that. We'll see. Well, I'll see.
Yeah,
what we decide
supplementary stuff. Sure.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But that's some other stuff for you to check out if you're interested. But here we go. Here's the random button. This is what I got. This is from Elder Scrolls Online. The Sovngarde Bear Cub. We were talking about fighting bears early on, like in the pre-show.
And now we've got a summoned one from beyond the grave.
Oh, yes. This is a very white and golden glowy little bear. Potential bear cubs from Sovngarde sense it and follow those who have it all the way back to Sovngarde. While here, they make for sometimes silly companions from clever woman Maritra. That's a quote. The Sovngarde Bear Cub is available in the Sovngarde Preview Crate. It was available in the Crown Store for 1,000 crowns from November 9th to November 16th, 2020. In 2022, it was offered to ESO Plus members at a discounted 800 crowns. Its default name is... You want to guess?
It's Snickers.
It's super cute. No, not Snickers. That's a good guess. Rompworth.
Oh, that's way better. Rompworth is amazing.
He romps around like a little baby bear, like a little dog.
All right,
or something.
I'm down with Rompworth. That's a real good name, actually. I was not expecting it to be quite so good.
Yeah. I feel like I have some Sovngarde pets. I don't remember which ones.
I might have gotten it from one of those free ones they gave us. I don't know. I just like to place them randomly around houses because I have so many. I've just been playing so long. And I don't buy crown crates or anything like that. Not for any deep-seated reason. Well,
you don't do the subscription, which means that you don't have the extra money to just spend on stuff.
Yeah, it's it's not really my thing. The gambling aspect isn't amusing to me, and I know it's like a benefit to a lot of people. Like, I like that idea, and I was like, nope, I don't do that. I don't really like gambling, even in real life. It's just not super my deal. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I don't really bother. But they give you the free ones, so like I'll open those along with that or log in rewards, and Look, I brought up in general about one glass armor since it was introduced with like the second style to armor in the
70
game.
years ago.
Yeah.
Can you imagine ESO when it's been 70
the original
years?
Anniversary.
The 70th anniversary of Elder Scrolls Online. We will venture to Skyrim 3 on the third version of Tamriel. What? Now, there are multiple versions of the world at that point? Yeah.
Do you think that the current Fighters Guild Guildmaster defeated Rompworth in real life to become...
Oh, no. Rompworth is a little baby bear.
I know, but do you think he lied about it and just
that's why
took
he's
out
in Sovngarde and he's dead?
And that's just it. It's like, well, we were talking about like actually fighting a bear would be like What if it was just like, dude, I'm not going to fight a real bear. I'll just beat up Rompworth.
Oh, that's so sad.
Right? Oh, so take down your Fighters Guild Guildmaster because he might be a scumbag.
Oh, no. Yeah. All right. Well, on that sad note, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next time for the Patron chat next week. So, all right, everybody, have a wonderful week and stay safe out there. And if a little bear comes your way, don't beat it up and send it to Sovngarde.
Give it a hug.
Give it a hug,
but safely.
But don't really give it a hug because it's still a bear.
I don't think the Sovngarde one would hurt you.
I don't know.
He's like a ghost.
I mean, is he physical?
I don't know.
He's kind of glowy.
This is getting really deep and weird to end the show.
I don't know. All right, we're going to head out. Bye, everybody. See you next time.
Later.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. Check out robotsradio.net for more podcasts just like this, and join us on the Robots Radio Discord. Be part of a community of over 5,000 people who are excited about video games and so much more. Robots Radio. Games, lore, stories, community. Just press play.